Jai Jinendra, everyone. Very good afternoon. I know we are standing before the coffee break, but I can assure you that the three panelists that I have with me here are going to do a lot of justice to the topic and also take you through some of the more practical aspects of doing business, how they have been doing business in Africa, and there will be some very interesting takeaways for all of us from this discussion. So the way I have thought of this session is I would request if each one of you can give a short opening remark and we move on from there. Starting with Vimal Bhai, of course. Uh, we talk about Africa as in one word, but it's actually 54 countries, right? So if you could give some opening remarks on the overall economic environment on the continent today, that will set the tone for the discussions going forward.
Thank you, Nisarg, and good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. Thank you. Now the energy is back. I think Africa, a lot of people have misconceptions about Africa. Africa is not one country. Africa is a continent, right? Number one. Number two, Africa's real size is far bigger than the US alone, China alone, India. You could actually put them all on the same map. USA, China, India, and you have space for Europe also. And that's the physical size. What you see on your maps is wrong. Number four, I think 54 countries in Africa, we got 54 presidents, and therefore we have 54 rules of law, right? However, it's not all madness. I think the important thing is that there is a method to it. There are 5 economic RECs. RECs means regional economic communities. You heard from Honorable Peter Mathuki, one is East African Community, the other one is SADC, the other one is Central Africa, and then there's one ECOWAS, which is the West African, and there's one in North Africa. So 5 different regions have similar economic situations. So you have 5 operating systems, and I think that's important to know. However, everybody you talk to has adopted democracy, and therefore there is democracy and there is so-called democracy, which is autocratic. So I think that's important to know. However, 1.4 billion people today reside in Africa. The way I would want us to see it with the lenses you wear is 1.4 million people need food, clothing, and shelter, roti, kapda, makan, right, every single day. Today we are that many. By 2050, we're looking at 2.5 billion people. So 1.1 billion more people are going to come. We are productive, yes, and that's going to happen. The point is there a market or do you see doomsday? The philosophy now is that wherever there are people, there's a market. So you've got to look at it from that angle. Now the economics of the region, the bottom of the pyramid is big. So there is a bottom of the pyramid market. Then there's the middle of the pyramid market, and there's a top. The top is small, but the middle and the bottom is becoming bigger, but the bottom is also moving up to the middle class. And that middle class bulge is what the market size is. So when you look at economic systems, we've also got digitalness right now. You've got bandwidth the same as you have here, Wi-Fi, telecoms, all working right now. So the speed of everything in Africa has changed. So if you were there 10 years ago, 20 years ago, and you thought, oh, we've had trouble, or we've lost money, yes, you did, and there will be troubles. But the point is, going forward, the economies are improving much more dramatically. So the consumption's happening, production's happening, and they're becoming competitive. So there's a lot, like you saw East African Community right now. You talk about South Africa and SADC. Improvements are happening. The ACFTA, which we'll talk about probably later, the African Continental Free Trade Area is talking about the entire Africa having one free trade. Now, if that happens, imagine what you can do there. So the economic situation, I would put it simply. If you wear the lenses of seeing where there are people, there's a market, right? However disorganized, it's all about us managing our sales and say, fine, how do we adjust and how we navigate that turf, which we can talk about. Thank you.
Sure. Excellent. Thank you, Vimal Bhai. And I think the economic environment lays down a good premise for me to move to Anish. And if you could, give your opening remarks on, as Vimal Bhai said, there is opportunity, there is the movement from the bottom of the pyramid. So how is the investment climate, right? If you could set the tone for that to dwell further.
Yeah, Thank you, Nisarg, and Jai Jinendra. Welcome, everyone. I think Africa is generally called as land of opportunities. And when I address this population here, colleagues and friends who are coming from India and the Indian subcontinent, Africa certainly offers a lot of opportunities from investment and business point of view. Most of you have witnessed what India used to be 30 years ago, 40 years ago. Most of the African countries are at this stage of development and growth. And believe me, what India took 40 years to grow, Africa will probably need another 10 or 15 years to achieve that kind of growth. So the opportunities that it offers is very high investment, high returns, and also at the same time, I believe that the plethora of working and the work culture what Indians follow is very much similar to African countries. We have seen a lot of African businesses are being managed and run by Indian businessmen or from Indian roots, and they have been extremely successful only because they have perseverance and they understand the local culture when they work there. I believe that going forward, people who would like to explore opportunities in Africa, this is the best time to go and explore, and I'm sure during the discussion we will talk more about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Anish. So, Sanjay ji, coming to you for the opening remarks. You have the economy, you have the investment, but if you want to do business, you have to actually go and live there, right? Not everything can be online on Zoom. And you have spent almost 30 plus years now in Nigeria. So, क्या होता है मतलब DDLJ के अमरीश पुरी की तरह तेरा देश बुलाए रे वाला फीलिंग रहता है या how is the life of an expat in that part of the world?
Yeah. Good afternoon, everybody. Jai Jinendra. First of all, lots of commendation to Biren Jasani, Vipul Malu, and the entire Dubai team. They have done the wonderful job. This is my first time to come to this kind of gathering on the stage of the G2. Thank you very much. Yes, definitely Nigeria. And going back, like Amrish Puri's dialogue as you have mentioned, Nigeria is such a country that everybody has a perception that it is a very bad country. But I must tell you one thing to reply to your question, that as and when anybody comes to Nigeria, if he has spent 2 years, after that he or she doesn't want to go back to India. That is the beauty of the Nigeria. As far as Nigeria is concerned, as Vimal Bhai has said, 1.4 billion, but I will give you another statistics about Nigeria. The population is around 250 million and 20% of Africa is Nigeria. Nigeria is the topmost economy of Africa. Nigeria population-wise is the highest population populated in Africa. They also say on the lighter note that every fifth black on this globe is a Nigerian. And Nigeria, out of the 54 countries, is termed as the big brother in Africa. So that is Nigeria. And I must say that there are many data, everybody knows about that one. I must say that this is the time to come to Africa and this is the time to come to Nigeria in particular. Though you must have read or seen in the news that there is a bloodbath going on currently. But I am saying with conviction, I am there for 3 decades plus, and there are many people who second and third generation are also there, and they have done wonders. They have done very well, excellently well, and they are there. An informal data which I can share with you that there are 165 big companies having around 35 billion investment, the Indian companies in Nigeria. The trade balance between India and Nigeria is around 19 billion, going stronger and stronger day by day. So that is Nigeria. And as I told that Nigeria is a big brother in Africa, any African Union or any bank or anything you say, Nigeria, it is shared by Nigerian.
Thank you. Thank you, Sanjay ji. So moving on and starting with a few questions that I have, I think, as an audience, when we sit down there and hear of all the opportunities that exist, it's the time, it's the right time to go. We are privileged to have someone like Vimal Bhai, who's, been there and done that kind of a scenario, right? And he's built a business from ground up. Now, if we were to go into his story, it will probably require a full session. But Vimal bhai, I really want you to share with the audience. You've gone there into Africa, built a conglomerate which now operates across the continent. So what are the key insights or key learnings that the audience should know about or from your journey, basically, which you would like to share today?
Thank you, Nisarg. I think, like you said, I don't want to take an hour, but being born and brought up in Kenya, my father is 92 today, and he sent his regards to all of you. He's born in Kenya. He's born in Mombasa. So we've been there about 110 years now, and we're part of the fabric. So I'm as Kenyan as Honorable Peter Mathuki. So I can say we're indigenous. But having done that, I think the issue was the opportunities in Africa. The opportunities there. If we don't do things over there as local people, I think it's not going to happen. The conviction that I had was to say from university to look at a business that is much bigger. And then we were looking at all the multinationals. What's Unilever doing? What's the other people doing? And why can't we do that in Africa? And today I can tell you a lot of the multinationals are actually moving out of Africa and going away else other places, whereas local people are now coming up and saying, we can do it too. Because the technology is transferred. You've got technology, you've got internet, you've got the best of machinery you can buy. So I think that was one important thing. Second thing for us as a family was to say, we have to decide, being born and educated there, the options were to say, fine, migrate to Europe. A lot of our people went to UK, a lot of our people went to Australia and into US and migrated. In fact, even Kenyans, we have a 1 million people population diaspora in the US today. So a lot of people did migrate for greener pastures. The question is, what specs do you wear? If you wear specs of opportunity, you look at every challenge and you see an opportunity, and that's what we wore. And we thought everything is possible. If things haven't been done in Africa, we need to do them. And I think that's where the viewpoint was, from the mindset of saying we have an abundance mentality to see possibilities. Now, whatever's being done in the Western world, use the best technology, bring it out there, use the best of management philosophies, and then do lean Kaizen and stuff like that, and you can actually operate very well in Africa. Number one. Number two, navigate the turf. Do not pay bribes. Do not go back and say, fine, here's speed money, I can get this done or that done. You will have regulatory issues. So we had all that. And I think we had to overcome all that in a time when things were still evolving. And as we speak, I think what Sanjay ji said, that I think even Anish said that, we're 30, 40 years. I think we're about 10, 15 years behind what India is today. And the opportunity means that if you were to rewind yourselves, we saw that opportunity to say, fine, bring the best of technology, bring the things requirement. And the philosophy is simple. Where there are people, there's a market. And that's the way we see it. So people will need the essential services. Based on that, we went into conviction of saying, my father was running a clothing factory, and we could go back into clothing. But we thought, let's go back to the farming side of it. And when we looked at that, there was cotton seed and cotton lint. And the seed side was looking much more attractive than the lint side. So we actually stopped the business of garments and all that, and went into edible oils, right up from soap making backward to oil, from there to the entire crushing, and now we do entire farming. So the entire agribusiness value chain is quite crucial. So that was one dream my father had. He says, even coffee that we're doing, he was doing coffee business, and he says, this is where we need to go full value chain. So with that conviction, number one. Number two, long term. We're not sitting there to say, let's go get some money and get it out. It was more to say, develop and build. So it's build and bolt on. And from there, Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania today, we're still expanding in Uganda, and I think we're one of the biggest investors in Uganda in plantations today. And we've got 30,000 acres even right now starting up. There's 30,000 acres already fruiting. And I think we see a lot more in East Africa, where in Africa, 60% of the unused arable land is in Africa. That's a McKinsey report. You can Google it, find out. Number one. Number two, there's a lot of people who are importing a lot of stuff into Africa. So that substitution can also happen. So when you look at the market demand side, it's a demand-supply equation. The demand is always going to be there. The question is, who's going to supply it? So if it's going to be Chindia means China and India. If that's going to supply it permanently, I think we're not long-term. So Africa's growing up to say we can. And I think Honorable Peter Mathuki talked about it. Come and manufacture in Africa, value addition locally. that was the whole thing about it. And I think the startup, from a startup position, 38 years now, and we've done it bigger, we are still looking at a much bigger growth. The thing was that adopt management practices, adopt the best of technology, adopt the systems that people have, and be above board. So I think with that, we started off, and today we have no regrets. I would say we now want to double up even more and become bigger. But the opportunity exists not only for us, but also for other people. So I think, Nisarg, I hope I answered your question.
Absolutely. I think that deserves a round of applause. So taking cue from that in terms of businesses, I'll come to you, Anish, and as a fund, as an investor, I think doing or executing projects, businesses have to foster a sense of collaboration between the stakeholders, the regulators, the local population, the financial institutions. So overall, we've heard stories, okay, we got projects, it didn't execute, didn't succeed. So what are the steps, or what do you think? Because we in India, I think we now come from a mindset where we believe sabka saath, sabka vikas, right? So how do you take everyone along and achieve project success?
Yeah. Thank you, Nisarg. I think it's a fantastic question because this is typically the dilemma of every businessman. And we come across so many projects where people have $50 million to $500 million projects at hand, but they are not sure how to execute those projects in a foreign land. They may have extensive expertise of doing it at their home country, but how to manage it in a foreign land. I think it's very important to manage a project in an end-to-end manner. It's like running an orchestra, where you have to look at how to close the financial closure of a project, work with the government and regulation institutions, and at the same time, understand the local paradigm of setting up a project. We have done projects across more than 20 countries, ranging from infrastructure, which includes airports, industrial parks and zones, ports and logistics. We also are into mining, electric vehicle, pharma, textiles. After doing so many variety of businesses, we have understood that common thread of doing business is threefold. One is understanding local regulations. Second, financially closing the project successfully. And third, constituting the right teams who can help you deliver the projects. So these are probably the three building blocks for any kind of project that you want to do in Africa. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Before I go to Sanjay ji, one question, Vimal bhai, you touched upon was the Africa Continent Free Trade Agreement. And how does that help businesses, suppose an Indian business wanting to enter the market, how does that help them? Does it make the market size bigger for them? What happens with this? And if you could shed some light, because there, as we said, 54 countries, but then these kind of arrangements can bolster business across the continent. So if you could throw some light on that.
Yeah, I think it's the opportunity now. We've grown up in Africa. East African community is a common market. It's not a free trade area anymore. It is much more of a common market where goods and services go across free of tax. Now that is being expanded, and it was expanded to a free trade area in COMESA. COMESA is the common market for Eastern Southern Africa. From Egypt right up to Zimbabwe, the whole lot is free trade. Now, the next one that's just started off and is live and ratified is the African Continental Free Trade Area. Sanjay ji, West Africa did not know East Africa. East Africa did not know West Africa. But now under this, East Africa, West Africa, Egypt, the whole of MENA is now under one tariff, which means that you can actually export goods across the region without any taxes, without any duties. India and the relationship to ACFTA. If you're producing in India and then you want to export to ACFTA, that's not going to be valid for free trade because that's not got value added locally. So the rules of origin apply here. Anything manufactured in any African country under the ACFTA is allowed duty-free access across the region into Africa. So you've got about 40 countries now having signed up to it will have one tariff structure. So zero tariffs within the border, cross-border trade. Now that opportunity is for manufacturing in Africa. So you can do something we call hubbing. Hub in places where you are least cost producers. So Indian people should, Indian manufacturers or Indian people should say, we have a hub in Africa wherever it is, whether it's Egypt, whether it's Kenya, whether it's Nigeria. I think wherever you put a hub, logistics costs, economical costs, currency issues need to be resolved and say, fine, here. Goods coming from India will not be freely traded in Africa. So that will be probably a hindrance, in my opinion. And therefore, the opportunity is to say, get in right now, get the trading going, but at the same time, look at a long-term view to say, once we got market share, where do we manufacture and what do we do to serve the whole region? So distribution centers, logistics, technology, I think all that opens up for this thing. Under ACFTA, goods and services will also be traded duty-free, tax-free. So I'm just saying there's a whole opportunity for that. However, just being in India and saying I'll export to Africa does not give you free trade.
So local value add, that's the key. That's a great takeaway. So Sanjay ji, coming to you now, and as you mentioned, the largest economy, largest population on the continent, all this is good, but बैठे सारे बनिए हैं यहाँ पे, पैसा किधर बनेगा? What are the sectors? What are the opportunities in Nigeria for Indian businesses today?
I must say that बनिए सारे बैठे हैं, मैं भी उनमें से एक हूँ, और आपको एक सिंपल गणित में समझाता हूँ. आज आप 100 की स्केल के सामने देखो कि प्रोग्रेस किस कंट्री में, ग्रोथ किस कंट्री में ज़्यादा हुई है या कितनी है. सोचो फॉर एग्जांपल ऑस्ट्रेलिया में लें तो 100 में से मेरे ख्याल से 85 नंबर हम दे देंगे. फिर हम यूएसए जाएं तो 80 दे देंगे, यूके जाएं तो 75 दे देंगे, इंडिया जाएं तो शायद 50-60 दे देंगे. अफ्रीका आएंगे तो कितना देंगे? 20, 10, 5, 15. तो 20 से 75 या 80 या 85 जाने का काम अफ्रीका में ही होने वाला है. That is the simple equation. I can tell you that this is the place. I take a pride that at least 100 people I have encouraged to come and settle in Nigeria successfully. Though Nigeria is a volatile country as far as exchange is concerned, now you must have heard that in the last 7 months, there is a real bloodbath on the exchange rate. The new president who came, he had very many revolutionary ideas and he implemented. On the advice of many experts, he unified the two rates, official rates as well as unofficial, that is parallel market rate. And in the process, it crashed. And from 750 parallel market, you can think of that why I am again and again saying bloodbath, it reached to 1,800. So you can imagine the losses incurred by each and everybody, companies, big conglomerates, individual businessmen, everybody. But this is a temporary phase. I will still tell you that come to Nigeria, as I said earlier, it is 20% of Africa and it is oil producing country. The economy currently is $500 billion economy, 500 billion economy. It is growing around 3% still. And I am saying that workforce is very good and is economical. There are lots of facilities provided by the government. There is a positive atmosphere. The new regime has come. He is also very, very positive towards Indians, towards everybody coming to Nigeria, investing. And slowly and gradually, they are moving from trading to manufacturing. So I will still say that whoever has interest in putting up a manufacturing facility, they must come to Nigeria. At least I have seen one more equation here, that many people want to come and settle their children. This is the best opportunity, best equation I would say, that they must come there. In India, for example, if somebody is already doing business, they have already saturated. So here is the chance to expand and expand to Africa and come to Nigeria. Since I am from Nigeria, I would always say come to Nigeria.
Well, if Shakira would have sang the song for you, it would have been it's time for Nigeria rather than Africa.
No, I first said Africa, then I said Nigeria.
Absolutely. So, Vimal bhai, one question on this. There are opportunities, there is opportunity to make money, etc. But can you give some practical insights on how do businesses tap into connects, in that market? What are business-to-business linkages? How do you establish or how do you access the market over there? If you can give some guidance on that, it would be very helpful for the audience when they're looking to enter the market.
Yeah, thank you, Nisarg. I think that's a good question. How do I tap into it? What's the opportunity there? There are very many networks. There are associations. There are formal business associations. We call them BMOs, business membership organizations. Like in each country, they have a private sector foundation, or they have KM, or Kenya Social Manufacturers, or UMA, or very many such associations. You can actually get all the information that you want from them. In Tanzania, it's called CTI. So that's possible, number one. Number two, there's also networking with people and finding out what's happening here, what's the market like. Referencing is important. A lot of stuff you will not get on Google or on internet, which is like fully transparent what you get other places. However, I think we've also got the big four, the PwCs, the KPMGs, and all these BCG, Bain, and McKinsey. They're all there, again, for consulting to find out. The only thing is that the execution ability is not with these organizations. These are people who will give you direction. They'll tell you, here's a possibility, that's possible. I think the Ugandan High Commissioner also gave you a full detail of what's possible. But the point is, you've got to go into it and find out where the opportunity is, what's the nuances, suppliers, distributors, or whatever. And there are many ways to do this. Bankers do the same. I think many investment bankers also provide services. I think Arise here would also be able to give you that advice. There's many advices possible. However, you've got to look at your own investment philosophy. I think there are different types of investors. The investor who says, I will put all my 100% capital into Africa, I would say that's not wise, right? I would say, rather than that, look at where's your risk capital, where's your long-term potential, and that sort of capital is where you put it in. Number three, I think Jito, and we talk about Jito where we are right now. If Jito could get together and say, fine, here we come together and have a similar fund where we say, fine, we will now invest into 10 or 15 different areas and look at that, collectively investments. You de-risk the model and bring it out. So that's another network you could form. There are many Jains over there who can actually give you the right advice and say, fine, here's what to do, and here's what not to do. So build those networks and put it together. Collective schemes would be less risky, and therefore there could be cross-investments. Now, a lot of times people say, no, I know how to do it, I will go and do it on my own, and I have everything. They go in there, they fail flat, and then they fail fast too. And then they come out and say, never again. We've had that case with Ambani's, we had the case with, I think, Adani at that same time. Vinod Bhai, I talked to you about it, but I think the issue is they try and do it, and they want to be on their own. I think the key issue would be form a new network, get in there, and find out. Like Sanjay ji said, the time is now. Anish ji said, the time is now. Really, opportunities are waiting. We have a big problem in Africa, and that's lack of capital formation. If you want to put in $2 billion in Africa, it's difficult to go and raise it in other markets. However, if that was done and there are projects out there, the demand is there, the supply requirements are there, the constraints are there, even in logistics and everything else. So I just think that networks could be formed, and I think Dubai probably has positioned itself to say Middle East and India. India has got the execution ability, the entrepreneur manpowership, and I think the mentorship to say, here we have, let's put that money at risk and make it patient capital. Bring it into Africa where there is actual virgin territory to do projects and get things done. So I think that whole collaboration would be a massive thing, and I think Dubai probably is a good base to start off with. I think many people here have roots out there. So you could actually look at that and say, what do we need to do here? Whether it's real estate, whether it's IT, whether it's technology, whether it's ag tech, whether it's edutech, all technology fields, I would say India's got the ability and the wherewithal, right? And I think that needs to be leveraged through collective schemes to say, fine, here, put capital together, put executions people together, and then say, fine, where's the possibilities in each market? Now, 54 countries, you can actually play your numbers in every single market or different regions and say, I will hesitate, I will put some here, I'll put some there, and therefore you de-risk the model. It's like the casino, where you actually put your bets onto different ones, and you'll have a seesaw effect. If one or two countries have a problem, at least the other ones will do better. So that way you would hedge a possibility. So I just think that a new way of doing things could be found out. I think the brain power, and I would say one thing, Jito's got the brain power available bring that together, bring the money power, and put that to work and say, fine, here is a green territory. I'd call it the last frontier. Anish, you agree with me? It's the last frontier that's waiting to be done. It's not like Asia, because Asia, in my opinion, is all done and over with. Latin America was the big issue, but then again, you have language issues. At least in Africa, you don't have language problems of English or whatever, and comprehension is easier. The cultures of business are similar. You can even do your 100% business there. But I would just say smart partnering is the way to go. So the opportunity exists for smart partnering in a way where, yes, you are digital. Yes, you are available. You are agile. And then you can be frugal. Software as a service nowadays comes in as a new project where you don't have to do CapEx. So CapEx and asset-light models are also possible. I think it's the way you want to wear it and really do it. I don't think people should come there and say, I'm putting my 100% capital and let it go. I would rather say, de-risk the model and share with other people. So that could be one takeaway for Jito right now to say, fine, let's have a new Africa model to make it happen. Thanks.
Very interesting. Very interesting. So I think we're watching the timer as well. But very quickly, if Anish, briefly, you could share with us some insights on financing. When you mentioned about achieving financial closure for the project, or what are the ways or means of getting financing for projects over there? If there are a few things that you can share in a brief manner, please.
Yeah, sure. I think very interestingly, if I share with you, in 2022, we did a study across sub-Saharan Africa, leaving the North African belt, just to understand what kind of investments Africa need to achieve the growth rate that they are looking at collectively as a region. And we found staggering $2 trillion of investments are required for helping African countries grow to their right potential. As of date today, only on the working capital and trade financing side, there is a gap of $1.4 trillion. So now, why I'm sharing these numbers with you, because you will understand that while there are massive gaps in availability of capital, but it also creates equal opportunities for the right size businesses to come and set up their businesses in various African countries. As Vimal Bhai rightly said, that you don't need to put all your eggs in one basket where you are saying 100% capital allocated in one country. The best way is to diversify and see that where your core strengths aligns with the expectations or growth trajectory of a country. We have helped more than 600 businesses, Indian businesses, international businesses, to settle in Africa across more than 20 countries. And we have seen one of the biggest dominating factor is helping them organize the funding avenues. There are international agencies, multilateral organizations, DFIs from US, Europe, India, who have extensive availability of capital to help businesses set up their manufacturing trading bases in Africa. In addition to this, there are local banks who are aligned with the national development program of each country, where we have heard from the excellencies from Uganda, from Tanzania, from East African region and South Africa, that how different governments are looking to expand into different areas. So we need to see that we bring those projects which are also required by a country to prosper. And once you hit that target, there will be a lot of availability of capital if we go in the right direction. Thank you.
Excellent. One last question with Sanjay ji I'll take before we open to the audience. Sanjay ji, Vimal bhai briefly mentioned about East Africa and West Africa. So when you're operating in West Africa, there are a lot more French-speaking countries there, and culturally, maybe there are some differences. So what would you say are the key peculiarities that you come across when you look at West Africa as a broader market to operate in or do business in?
Right. Actually, I would say in West Africa, ECOWAS is applicable, Economic Community of West African States. And there are 15 countries in that one. And maybe 3 or 4 are French-speaking. All rest of them are English-speaking. So definitely yes, but those countries are very small as compared to Nigeria or the rest. And I would say basic difference between East Africa and West Africa is the risk factor is higher in West Africa. East African countries are more organized now, but as you all know, that we are all banias. Higher the risk, higher the gains. And that still stays till today, and that will stay in Nigeria. Being a OPEC country, being economy, robust economy, growing very well, and the oil reserves and gas reserves, a recent finding says that 300 years gas reserves are there, yet to be confirmed. They found lithium, and that has the yield of 13%, highest in the world. Of course, mining industry also is doing very well. Looking to the prospects, I would always say, definitely, yes, I am Nigeria fan because I am in Nigeria. I would again say that it is best decision to come to Nigeria or West Africa, wherever you wish to come, but come to Africa. And the difference between these two segments, East Africa and West Africa, one more thing I would say, that the workforce, rather not a difference, workforce is equally available in both the sides. So there won't be any fear from that angle. And it is still making the investment proposals best in Africa and very good in Nigeria.
Excellent. Thank you
Maybe,
so much.
Nisarg, I'll just add one point to what Sanjay ji said. See, we have seen most of our community members, they follow their religious practices, and sometimes they fear that if I go to Africa, will I find my food? Will I find vegetarian food? And I fondly remember many years ago when I first visited Africa, I had actually 2 bags with me, one for my clothes and one for packed food. And I tell you, when I was there for 3 months, I did not open my bag which was full of food. It was so fantastic. I traveled across East Africa, Southern Africa, West Africa in those 3 months. And everywhere it was so much availability of Indian food, vegetarian food, that there was no need to really look out for anything else. So this is something I'm giving you a comfort to add to what Sanjay ji said. When you come to Africa, you will find a lot of similarities which will make you comfortable.
Paid puja pehle hamesha. So before we head for our paid puja, I would like to open it up to the audience. If there is any question from our fellow members, we can take that. If there are no questions,
Hello.
sorry.
I'm on your left. Yeah.
Yes,
My name is Nikhil. I'm from India, Chennai. So, Vimalji, I like the fact when you said that we all have to, we have to get together and look for opportunities than one man just going forward an opportunity for. So the risk is well divided. So, Vimalji, can it be that you initiate a certain level of projects where most of our members can be a part or a stakeholder to that, and where you being a local there, Sanjay Bhai and other people being there, if you can give us an opportunity so that we have more than one reasons to visit this country and spread our wings. So we initiating something and playing blind is better than someone who's there who looks for a massive opportunity and for massive stakeholders. So how many of you are ready for that? So I hope you all understand that by the time we discover, it will be too late. So is there an opportunity? And if yes, then how can you help all of us to get together to be a part of that opportunity? Thank you.
So sometimes you have to, there is a saying, no? Think what you're saying, you may actually get it. So Vimal Bhai proposed it and he's actually got an offer now. So
I think it's possible. Just to add a comment on it, it's possible. The only thing is that there are many ways to do this, and this cannot be done by one person. It's got to be curated and really ideated upon and iterated. And I think with that, there could be a possibility. And there's enough brain power within Jito to be able to do this for Africa. And I think we can look at that.
And maybe come and talk to us during the coffee breaks. We have many colleagues. I have my colleagues here, Nikhil, Sarah. As I was mentioning, we have helped more than 600 businesses to come and expand in Africa. If you are a serious investor, we will find something for you.
I think I would request Biren Jasani, Mr. Biren Jasani, I think you mentioned that there is a event where the counters of each country from Africa will be there.
During
So
the
if you can announce that one, it
Yeah,
will help that
that
gentleman.
will be during the networking session. We'll have those
So you
specific.
can equally
Sorry,
attend
there's
that one.
Hi, myself
last
Vikas
question,
Kanwar.
yeah.
My question is very clear. There are three issues in Africa which we've been facing. One is some part of Africa has gone through civil war kind of a situation, likewise in Senegal. Likewise
Sorry, we
in
can't hear you. You need
Yeah.
to be a little louder.
So there are three things what we have been facing in Africa. One is devaluation of money, which is a classic case of Nigeria. Second, there are civil war kind of situation which are created in Senegal. So how do we take it as a long perspective that this keeps on repeating or business model needs to change? Please guide on this.
For Nigeria, I can say a few things. Yes, as I already told, that there is a bloodbath, and it has happened in last many decades so badly, and that also because some change of policies were there. But as they say, whoever has stayed long in Nigeria, they say that yes, these kind of things happen. But yes, there is a control. It has started coming down once again, and very soon it will find its actual level, and that will facilitate the business people to do their business legitimately or in the normal way. As far as coups are concerned in African countries, leave aside Senegal for 1 minute, that era is gone according to me. Earlier, you know, the communications were not that fast, or they were secluded, smaller countries, all these things were possible. But recently you must have heard about Niger. That has happened, but that got failed. And I think the people will still try, but that won't work now. So in the long run, I would say two things. It won't happen, but there is no guarantee. If it happens, it will settle down in few months or so, or in a shorter period. And believe you me, if the military government comes, the things become much easier for business people, and it is not even unsafe. But you know, people who are sitting outside Africa, they may think something very hugely, I mean, people incurring losses, or it is very unsafe or something like that. In Nigeria, I am saying that we have 50,000 community people. They all are feeling safe. Yes, here and there some incidents happen, but it is not that bad. And if something happens, it is in the remote areas, and that gets flared up in the media, and the news appears that, oh, something bad has happened in Nigeria, whereas it has happened at a place which is 1,000 kilometers away from you, and that also gets settled. So I would still say that yes, it is not as safe as India, but with that mindset, if you come, there are benefits. Thank you.
So, Vimal bhai, you would like to say something on the currency devaluation piece, if any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think there's two things here. The risk perception versus the reality are two different areas. The perception amongst a lot of people is that it's too risky, don't even touch it because I found one or two problems. Oh yes, there's a bloodbath. Now, what does a bloodbath mean? You know, it means you're dead, you're not alive anymore. So the point is, there are risks. The question is, are you able to navigate with those risks? There will be tailwinds and there'll be headwinds anywhere you go. I mean, if you were in Ukraine and you had a huge farming activity in Ukraine, are you saying Putin's invasion there, were you immune from it? No. The fertilizer prices, COVID happened, global things are happening. 64 countries in the world are having elections this year. There's going to be disruptions everywhere. The perception of risk and the reality of risks, yes, devaluations will happen. I think in Kenya last week, we had an appreciation of 10% of currency in one day. One day, 10%. And immediately the thing just changed and it became appreciated. So I'm just saying, it's about trust, number one. Number two, there are myths around, it's too difficult, it's too dangerous. There are issues around it. You've got to be street smart. You've got to make sure that you don't just walk around with gold jewelry and walk on the streets and do all that stuff. You have to be street smart. However, I think currency devaluations, exchange rate risks, just yesterday we heard from last night that Dubai has been removed from the grey list and Kenya has just been added on the grey list today. I'm just saying, is there a risk? There is a risk. But Dubai went through a grey listing. It spent 1 or 2 or 3 years of KYC and whatnot. The question is, how deep is the impact of that? What is it going to happen? What's going to happen with that? And I think right now, Uganda also got lifted. The FATF removed the grey listing. Tanzania is still there. The question is, what does that risk mean? What do we do about it? how do I de-risk my model? A lot of times people have had different experiences because they've gone on their own, they've done a punt, and they come back. And my point was to say, let's look at a holistic point of view and say, fine, what can be done? We've got expert people around here. You can actually look at how to de-risk it. Lastly, I want to say one thing. If you think that's too risky to invest, there's something called ATIA, Africa Trade Insurance Agency. They will give you risk on everything, political risk, expropriation risk, and they'll cover your insurance. Then you've got MIGA. MIGA is the Multilateral Investment Guarantee Authority, where the World Bank and everybody will give you a insurance against any investment you have. So if you lose money, you actually get it all back. The question is, there's a premium to be paid, right? And you got to pay insurance premium so that you get some life support. The point is, there are methods to the madness, and really, the ultimate thing is, are you patient? Are you really having capital that you can put away? Do not come in with saying, I need income from this, and I need my 10% per annum or per month, and I want to survive on it. I would rather say, put risk capital there, and really the rewards, like everybody says here, the rewards are double digit anyway. So I think that's where the opportunity is. The question that I'm asking is, yes, do not wash it away and say, forget it. I think a lot of people washed away Asia, it's come back. Or people also washed away South America, it's come back. Brazil has also come back. And Africa is probably going to springboard. The question is, yes, patient capital. Yes, things will happen. But look at it from a different perspective. So all I'm saying is that there are opportunities. What specs do you wear, and where am I as an investor? I think that's ultimately everybody's got to decide on their own. Thank you.
So I think I'll just conclude by saying, चलते चलते सिर्फ इतना ही याद रखना, अफ्रीका की अपॉर्चुनिटी को अभी अलविदा मत कहना. So I hope the panel has been able to deliver on its objective of giving you more practical insights. Can I have a huge round of applause for all three panelists, please?